Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Bookishly Erica, and today we're going to be talking about Tower of Dawn. Alright, this is going to be the spoiler discussion of Tower of Dawn. So if you haven't read the book, get out of here. I have a spoiler-free review of Tower of Dawn. I'm going to leave the link here for you. Do not continue with this video unless you want spoilers, which you don't, so don't keep watching. Goodbye, spoiler people. Bye-bye. Come back when you've read the book, and I would love to get into a discussion of all these juicy details with you. Bye-bye. Now that the spoiler people are gone, let's get into Tower of Dawn. Oh, the feels in this book. Okay, so the first half felt very heavy to me. I gotta be honest, I was like getting ready to rate this as 3 stars after part 1. It was heavy. There wasn't enough like lightness for me. Part 2 was way better. By the end of part 2, I was like, yes, I'm feeling so good about this book. I loved that she changed this from a novella to a 660-page book. I think Cale's character needed it. She did so much damage to his character that Cale supporters were so upset. I almost feel like she made this book for Cale supporters because of the way that she wrecked his character. I'll be honest, I've never liked Cale. I have found his character just very, I don't know, I've never liked him. But by the end of this book, I absolutely loved Cale's character. So I think the character development from beginning to end was fantastic. Nesrin. I gotta be honest, I'm not a fan of Nesrin. The second half, she did so much better. I loved her the second half to the end of the book, but the first half of this book, I did not like her. I wanted to skip through her chapters. I found her kind of annoying and just mopey and whiny, and I could not connect with her. I just wanted her out of the book. But then, after she made the decision to get on Kadara and go with Sartok, pause here, I'm gonna butcher these names, just, it is what it is. So after they get on the bird and they fly off to the camp, her character got so much better, so much better. Like, yes, thank you. And Yrene, I love Yrene. She is one of my favorite characters. I liked her in The Assassin's Blade, and I loved her in this book. She was just, I love her banter. I love her attitude of how she used to be in a bad situation, and now she is not going to take any crap from anybody, and I love it. I also love that you can see bits of Celaena's character in her, because Celaena played such a big important role in her life and getting her to the tour. So you can see some of that snarkiness and that sarcasm and that I'm gonna stand up for myself, I don't need you to help me, I got this kind of attitude. I loved it. So let's talk relationships. I knew from the very beginning of the book that Cale and Nesrin were not going to be together. I have never felt the relationship. I never felt a connection there. It has always felt very forced to me and fake, and I knew that they would not be together. Page 15 specifically. Sartok's gaze slid from his sister to Nesrin. She yielded a blink. His brown skin was darker than the others, perhaps from all that time in the skies and sunlight, his eyes a solid ebony, depthless and unreadable. His black hair remained unbound, save for a small braid that curved over the arch of his ear. The rest of his hair fell to just past his muscled chest and swayed slightly as he gave what Nesrin could have sworn was a mocking incline of his head. And a couple paragraphs before that she puts, Sartok's face was solemn, his broad shoulders thrown back. As soon as I read that, I felt like Sartok's description was so much more like, I want you to see like how strong and chiseled this, like, how much of a man this man is. I was like, Nesrin's gonna get with Sartok. I knew right from that first page when they were eyeing each other that they're gonna end up together. Bye-bye Cale, Nesrin and Sartok, and I love them together. I loved the way that their relationship was a little more slow, even though you knew that they were going to get together. Well, I knew that they were going to get together. There were little things like the looks they would give each other and the parties, and how Sartok would kind of pay special attention to her. He would He knew when she left the castle, he went hunting for the Valg with her, or what they assumed was probably going to be a Valg, in the streets. He gave her little bits of information that he didn't necessarily open up and share with other people. And then when he invited her to go to the Rook camp with him, thank God. I was like, yes, 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 yes. Don't worry about Kale. You two don't love each other anyway. Go. So I'm happy that she went. She just sent a letter and was like, peace out. I love the little tensions between them when they're riding Kadara together. Love Kadara, by the way. I'm like all about fictional animals, so Kadara. Which I kind of pictured her almost like Griffin-y more. I'm not sure what they look like, but that's kind of the image that I had in my head. I love the way that when they're in the Rook camp, Nesrin gets to see sort of a softer side of Sartok, and they connect, they share stories. She learns that he's known about her, you know, all this time, and that everybody knows about her. She feels at home there, and I just think that it was really special. I loved how Sartok was willing to sacrifice himself for Nesrin. I mean, he's going to be what everybody assumes. He didn't know at this point, but everybody assumed that he was going to be named the heir, and yet he was willing to sacrifice himself for Nesrin. That is true love. That's, you know that they are meant to be together when he decides to do that. So that part just like gave me goosebumpies. Okay, Kale and Yrene. I also knew from the beginning that Kale and Yrene would end up together. I could sense a enemies to lovers trope happening, and I was all for it. I love the two of them together. I think that they mesh really well in a much better way than Kale and Selena could ever have been together. Kale needs someone to tell him when he's being an ass, but in a way that Selena couldn't have done. Selena and Kale were like two sharp edges coming together, and Kale and Yrene just, they fit. She's able to push back his moods and his emotions and his stubbornness in her own way, and they're so perfect together. I love them together. She evens him out and makes him whole in a way that he really needed. Yrene was not looking for love, but she found Kale, who's the son of her enemy land, and yet she finds it in her heart to look past that to the man beneath that and realizes that he is not part of that. So I love the way that they healed each other. I love how they were both emotionally healing during the healing process of his spine. It was so perfect. I loved it. When we start Tower of Dawn, Kale and Nesrin are on the ship. They're going to the southern continent. They're trying to ask for the Khan's aid in their war. They need his armies. They need his resources to help them win the war against the Valg. They're also there to help heal Kale's spine because he took a massive blast of dark Valg magic in his spine and he is paralyzed from the waist down. So they've traveled to the southern continent to be healed by a high healer of the Tor and to ask for aid. Well, the Khan's youngest daughter died, so he is not having any discussion of war right now. He's like, nope, this is not the appropriate time. I don't want any part of your war right now. I will think about it later. I am mourning. My wife, the queen, she is like not even coming out of her bedroom because she is like so depressed about this. So bye, go get yourself healed and we'll talk later. Every time Kale tries to talk to him, this guy just like shoves a wall in his face and says, nope, I'm not talking to you. I don't see why I should make my people die for you. We've already lost somebody. We don't want to lose anybody else. So then we follow along with Nesrin and Kale and Yrene and how their stories all intermix. Nesrin in the first half of the book is like all concerned about her family because they learn that Dorian has surrendered Rifthold to the Valg and has fled. So she's super concerned about what happened to my family. Did they get captured? Did they die? So in part one, she's so focused on being like depressed and internalizing all of this fear and anger she's feeling. I really did not like that. I felt like Nesrin was supposed to be this like powerful woman character who would take no crap. I understand being upset, but I think it was taken too far and to the point where it made her character very dislikable. I wanted to like slap her and go, stop it and do something. Like, you can't do anything from here. You're in a different continent, don't know where your family is, you're not getting back there anytime soon, and if you did leave today to go back there, who knows when you would find them. It just didn't make any sense for her to be like so mopey and upset about it. And then her and Kale, they were so forced. I did not feel anything from them. I didn't feel the tension. I did not like their relationship in this book. I felt like they were so forced that even though they were supposed to be this, oh, but I don't want to do wrong by her, but we're supposed to be together, but I don't want to be together. I don't know. I just didn't feel, I was not happy with that whole messy situation. In fact, I got really annoyed with Kale, or several times throughout the book. He was basically like upset with himself for having feelings and trying to act upon those feelings with Yrene when he was supposed to be with Nesrin. And I found myself just going, oh my God, stop. I didn't even feel that tension between them. We knew you weren't gonna be together. It's fine, just do you. She's already doing her. She didn't give a crap about you. She ran off on a rook with Sartak. She could care less. And you could care less. So why, I just did not like that there just kept being this forced internal dialogue where Kale was like mad at himself for ditching Nesrin when there was like nothing there to begin with. It just kind of like, every time that popped up, it just threw in a, oh my God, like, can I just skip this part? Okay, scenes that I loved. I loved the healing scenes between Yrene and Kale. I thought that the way that that was written was very interesting, and how it was more of an internal thing and she had to use her light to push back the Stark, but it was in a way where there was so much emotion connected to it. This dark Val magic was feeding off of the negativity and the dark energy inside of Kale. And Yrene had to use her good light to break through those bad memories and show him that there was goodness. And so I loved the way those were written, and how it basically didn't just take Yrene, but both her and the host, which in this case was Kale, they both had to work together to fight back this darkness. And so I really liked the way that that was sort of portrayed and written out. I also really loved the atmosphere in Antica. I thought the city was great. It's supposed to be this like wondrous continent that everybody wants to be like them. They have freedom, they have education, women have rights. There's just so much in that city that's good that other cities want to base their views off of. Although I do wonder if there is something secretly wrong with Antica that's going to come up. I don't know if this was due to Nesrin's character or the overall plot, but she did mention several times of, I don't know why my father left here. This is so great. Why did we never come back? Why did my father leave? Why did we ever leave? Why were we living here? So I just felt like that was brought up so many times that I don't know if this was supposed to be for the benefit of Nesrin's character or for the plot as a whole, but it makes me wonder if there was maybe something wrong with Antica that we're going to find out later that may pop up. The pool scene with Hussar. Okay, first of all, Hussar was like, she's obnoxious, all right? Sometimes I just wanna, but I loved when Hussar is pushing. She's trying to get Yrene to say that she's gonna marry her brother when she clearly has stated several times she has no feelings for him, she doesn't want to be part of that. And so Hussar then takes that out on Kale, and Yrene is just like, that's the straw. You can beat me all you want, but don't you touch my baby Kale. So she pushes Hussar into the pool. Oh, it was the best day of my life. It was so great. I loved it. I loved every second of that scene. So then Hussar comes up out of the pool and she's like about ready. She has this look in her eyes that she's about ready to murder somebody. Luckily, her wife was there to kind of jump in and say, I'm gonna laugh at you because that was funny. And then Hussar just kind of is like, I'm glad you finally grew a backbone, and like walks off. We all know that if Hussar's wife wasn't there, there was about to be bloodshed. But I'm so glad Yrene stuck up for herself. That was such a key turning point, I feel like, in Yrene and Kale's relationship, because she showed just how much she cared about Kale, because she pushed a freaking princess into the pool. I also loved these spider battle scenes. It kept me on my seat. It kept me wondering like what the heck was gonna happen with Nesryn and Sartok. The introduction of those spiders and how they are loyal to Maeve was so great. I loved learning that history and how it's going to play a bigger part in the story. And I thought that Nesryn really went back to the roots of her character and showed just how amazing she can be by taking charge of the situation and coming up with a plan. And Sartok was going to sacrifice himself for her, and she went, "Oh no, you're not. Nesryn's on the job. I have a plan," and lets herself get captured. Here are some overall theories and thoughts I had about the book. So Duva ends up being the Valg, and I don't necessarily think that that was right. I guess I kind of suspected it when she didn't join in on some of the things and it was blamed on her pregnancy, which there could have been truth there. But from the very beginning, we're like left in this mysterious cloud about the queen and about how she's in mourning and nobody's seen her. And then there's that scene where she's like in the garden by herself, like in white, and it's kind of creepy and you're like, oh, but you can't see her face. I really think that was a missed opportunity. I think that the mystery and everything surrounded by the queen, I think she should have been the one infected by the Valg. I also think it would have made a much bigger impact to the Khan if his wife was affected by it than his daughter. And I know he loves his kids and he did care that his daughter was affected, but I just think that had it been the queen, that would have made such a bigger impact to the story overall. It would have just been better. Missed opportunity. I love that Sartok is the heir. His character, I love Sartok. And when his father calls him in at the end of the book and he basically says, "I love Nesryn, and if you're telling me that I can't love her and I can't marry her and be the heir, then I don't want it." And his father goes, "You passed the test, you got it." So I love that he's the heir, and I think he alluded to the fact earlier in the book that he did not necessarily agree with the whole siblings killing thing, and he hoped that somewhere along the line somebody would stop that tradition. It's going to end with Sartok. I already know his father's gonna die, he's gonna end up being the king, Nesryn's gonna be the queen, not king, Khan, whatever. He's gonna end up being the Khan, Nesryn's gonna end up being the queen, and there will be no sibling killings, everyone's gonna live happily ever after. I think Maeve being a Valg queen totally makes sense. We learn in the spider scene when they find the actual word gate that Maeve was married to the oldest Valg brother, and she was like not happy with that. She said, "I want to do my own thing, I want to have my own power." So she figured out how to open these rifts in the world. We're not really sure how she knows how to do that or how she does it or if she can still do it, but she opened up a rift and came through this gate and then told her spiders to protect it. She said, "You wait here and you make sure that nobody comes through this gate. And if they do, you tell me." So these spiders have just been there for however long they've been there waiting for Maeve. That's loyalty. I did really enjoy getting to learn about that little piece of history, and I think it will be a super important part and we'll learn even more as it goes on. There's also a piece in the book where Yrene is talking to Kale and she seems to put stressor on the importance of if these kings were killed or if they were banished and who stayed, and that it might play an important part depending on who's here. I think the Valg king who is trapped here is different than the one that we've been thinking the whole time. I think there was just there were too many little comments made about how important that was, that I think it's going to play a role in how Kingdom of Ash unfolds. It's also super important that we learn that healing and fire are both things that the Valg are afraid of, to the point where the king in Rifthold, who still had a piece of himself, gave the order to execute specifically all the healers because he knew how important the healers were to the Valg. I think not only are they gonna play such a big role in getting rid of the Valg? But if a Valg were to overtake one of them, that I think that would make a more powerful Valg. Okay, the ending where Kale and Yrene get married, I'm so glad that they did, and how they're bound together. That whole scene where Yrene and Kale are in the library. What is it with creepy libraries, by the way? When they're down there and they're facing off with a Duva Valg, Kale pushes her out of the way to take the brunt of the magic, injuring his spine again, undoing all of the work they just did to get him to walk again. Again, more sacrifice. I love all of the self-sacrificing in this book. It gives me all the feels. So I had a foreshadowing about this earlier in the book, way back in the beginning of the book on page 38. There's a sentence where they mention that healing can do wonders, but basically it can't stop death. I knew on that page someone was going to die or be close enough to death where this would come into play. So now we're here and Kale's on the verge of death. While I did feel the tension in it, I kind of thought that, okay, but she's gonna find a way to save him because we already had this comment earlier, so he's not gonna die. So Yrene goes in there, she's trying to heal him, and then she hears Silba come and speak to her because she's the heir of Silba. And Silba says, we can bring him back, but it's gonna come at a great cost. And freaking Yrene doesn't even ask what the cost is. She's just like, I'll pay it. I love him, I will pay it. She needed to ask what the cost was. But basically, Yrene's magic puts a crutch on Kale, which there was another foreshadowing of that earlier in the book when they mentioned that somebody had done this previously, but they weren't sure how they did it. It was lost to records. So now Yrene and Kale are bound. Her magic acts as a crutch for him to walk, and when her magic drains, his ability to walk goes away and he will have to be back in the wheelchair. I can't really attest to how disabilities were displayed in this book, but I do appreciate that at the end of the book, he basically says, I'm fine being in a chair. I can be in a chair. I could be walking. It doesn't matter. I'm still me. I'm still gonna be like a kick-ass warrior no matter what physical condition like I'm in. And the other part to their being bound is that if one of them dies, the other one dies. I mean, that's sort of like Notebook-y, I feel like, where it's like, oh, we're gonna go together when we finally go. But we need Yrene and we need Kale. So they can't die on the battlefield. We need them. But we really need Yrene. So don't die, Kale. Don't go out there fighting these Valg demons and get yourself killed because we really need Yrene. I didn't take great notes while I was reading because I just get so sucked into these books that it's hard to like stop and take notes. It's hard to remember. So this was my messy review. If you have anything else to add, if you have any parts that you loved, what you thought about the characters, about the love interests, theories you have for Kingdom of Ash, if you haven't read it, I do not want spoilers in my comments. Please do not spoil the next book for me. Leave them in the comments. I'd love to discuss with you and talk about all the juicy goodness and everything that you felt while you were reading it. So thank you so much for watching. I'm probably going to be posting 2 times a week. I'm not sure the days yet. I will keep you guys updated, but that's all I have. Talk to you guys later.